Bob Proctor once said, "We can come this way once. We can either tiptoe through life and hope we can get to death without being too badly bruised, or we can live a full, complete life, achieving our goals and realising our wildest dreams." As you move forward on your journey from where you are now to where you want to be, you're going to have another reason to confront your fears. Fear is natural. Whenever you start a new project, take on a new venture, or put yourself out there, there's usually fear. Unfortunately, most people let fear stop them from taking the necessary steps to achieve their dreams. Successful people, on the other hand, feel the fear along with the rest of us, but they don't let it keep them from doing anything they want to do or have to do. They understand that fear is something to be acknowledged, experienced, and taken along for the ride. They've learned, as the author Dr. Susan Jeffers says, to feel the fear and do it anyway. So why are we so fearful? Well, millions of years ago, fear was our body's way of signalling us that we were out of our comfort zone. It alerted us to the possibility of danger, and it gave us the burst of adrenaline we needed to run away. Unfortunately, throughout this response, though it was useful in the days where the saber-toothed tigers were chasing us, today most of our threats are not at all life-threatening. Today, fear is more of a signal that we must stay alert and cautious. We can feel the fear, but we can still move forward anyway. Think of your fear as a 2-year-old child who doesn't want to go grocery shopping with you. You won't let the 2-year-old's mentality run your life because you must buy groceries. You just have to take the 2-year-old along with you. So fear is no different. In other words, acknowledge the fear exists, but don't let it keep you from doing the important tasks in your life. So you have to be willing to feel that fear. Some people will do anything to avoid the uncomfortable feeling of fear. And if you're one of those people, you run the even bigger risk of never getting what you want in life. Most of the good stuff requires taking risk. And the nature of the risk is that it doesn't always work out for you. People do lose their investments. People do forget their lines. People fall off mountains. People die in accidents. But the old adage wisely says, nothing ventured, nothing gained. In 2009, Peter Douglas was a self-sufficient businessman, rancher, and self-described cowboy who had pulled himself up from the bootstraps his whole life. As a result of his mistake made by his anesthesiologist during what was supposed to be a routine shoulder surgery, he found himself unable to grab his bootstraps anymore, much less pulling them. He woke up to discover that both his arms were totally paralyzed from the shoulders down. For the first time in his life, without his hands, the use of his hands, Peter felt helpless, which he describes as the feeling you get when you know you have to do something, but you just can't do it. After years of rehab, Peter still only had limited fine motor skills in his hands. He has some triceps and forearm movement, but he can move his arms with difficulty. But as he describes it, his thumbs are not exactly opposable anymore. For the years following his surgery, he didn't go anywhere without his wife and someone else to help him. And he definitely wouldn't consider traveling by himself. The thought of being alone in a strange place terrified him. What if he needed help? What if he couldn't open his hotel room door by himself? What if, and the fear set in. One day he decided enough was enough and realised that letting the fear of the unknown dictate his life and where he went, finally made the decision to travel on his own. But each step of the way, he knew that he'd have to face his fear with the next complication or obstacle or stumbling block that might eventually cause him to throw up his hands, in theory at least. That's it. I'm going home. But he was determined to work through his fear. And when he discovered that he had faced each fear, the solution appeared. Here's what Peter told us. So the fear was, I was afraid to check in at the airport. I didn't know if I had enough strength to swipe my credit card at the check-in kiosk. So the solution was, he asked the people at the airlines, to help, and they were more than happy to help him. He was nervous about getting his seatbelt buckled in, and he wasn't sure he'd have enough to grasp his hand to do the task. So the flight attendants were kind enough and helpful with the seatbelt. He didn't know how to get things into his hotel room. Well, the solution was, once he was in the room, the bell captain helped him unwrap his soap, his luggage, and set up his room, and fold his covers, and unpack everything. So his fear was, I didn't know how to get myself dressed flying solo. I hadn't been able to get any of my clothes buttoned on my own, so the solution was his wife packed all his stuff pre-buttoned, so he'd just slip it on and over his head. He put Velcro in his pants and his trousers to actually fasten them, and it made it so easy. And he put loops in his socks as well, so he can grab and pull them. But there were still 2 buttons on his shirt that needed buttoned, and again, for the first time, he just asked for help. For the first time, he had to ask a hostess for help to button his shirt. He felt uncomfortable about it, but the hostess, after a while, knew exactly why, and both were fine. So again, he had a fear. He was afraid to eat by himself. He still can't cut the meat, and he has most difficulty with the flatware. But soon he travelled with a special fork which allowed him to do that, and many people offered to help and actually wash up his fork at the end of it. What he had learned that is with everything around us, he had to erase that fear. Just look at what you've got left to your right and your left with the people. They are strangers, but that doesn't matter. They're amazing people at that time in the step of his journey who don't just assist him. They literally jump at the chance to help another human being. The only way to find out if you can actually do something is to actually do it. As Peter says, it takes a little bit of trust, but the only way you'll ever find out if you can fly solo is to experience the fear and take the leap and trust that you'll be okay. Peter still experiences some anxiety when he travels on his own, but most of the fear has gone, and he is replaced with gratitude for all the assistance that people continue to offer him. The reason Jack Canfield knows this, that Peter, after facing his fear and fact that he'd never rope cattle again, decided to pursue his career as a public speaker and a trainer. And having heard Jack speak and reading his Success Principles book, he decided to attend his Train the Trainer class. And he has since written a book called Cowboy Leadership and designed a speech, seminar and workshop all based on his philosophy called Saddle Up.